Por la altura es
Menos
punible.
mal. Sí, sí, totalmente.
I will never forget this day. I cannot believe what I just saw and what I just heard. BAR saying thank goodness because there's a handball on Fermin Lopez at the end of the match and the game is not going to end 4-2 and instead it's going to end 3-2. From referees, Miñac, Montero, and Hernandez. This is how Real Madrid wins. This is how they do remontadas in the Champions League. This is how they do remontadas in La Liga. Their degree of difficulty is not the same as Barca. Barcelona's degree of difficulty in last night's match was not the same as Real Madrid's degree of difficulty. And Barcelona has been getting dog shitted by the referees in the Inter Milan game and the Real Madrid game. They robbed Barca from potentially winning a historic treble. And if you don't believe me, then why did Mignac get suspended by UEFA? He was a clear candidate for the UEFA Champions League final. And he was just told not only he's not going to referee the final, he's not going to referee in the Nations League, he's not going to referee in the Club World Cup. Why would UEFA do that if they don't admit that he made mistakes against Barca? And what we saw on display, I wasn't going to talk about referees. If you go back to my match reaction for yesterday's video, I said it. I am not going to talk referees. We won the game. Just leave it at that. I don't care. But when I see breaking news on my phone that BAR audio says that a referee, Munuera Montero, said, thank goodness, are you freaking kidding me? This is proof of how Real Madrid's manipulation, and it all starts with Real Madrid TV. They released a video 24 hours before the game, pointing out every single nitpick in every single call from the referee. And I don't know if they do that for deception or what, but and if they do and if they don't, then that means that referees clearly are afraid of Real Madrid's power because they clearly benefit Real Madrid. Barca has to start this game 2-0 with two ridiculous calls by the referees. The first one is a mistake. Did Barca make mistakes on both goals? Yes, Barca makes mistakes on both goals, but it's not fair that Real Madrid gets the whistle in every single call. Has there ever been a game where the referee was against Real Madrid? I'm just trying to figure out if there's ever a game where there's bad calls against Real Madrid. For real. Barca has to start the game 1-0 because Chesney doesn't know how to mark a man and that does not know how to let Mbappe go to the right and try to score. But instead he goes for the legs, and that's a penalty, clear, plain and simple. But Mbappe is from an offside position. He's offsides. How are we going to call that a penalty kick when there's an offside position? And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, they did not show the frame. They didn't show the frame. They showed the frame for three or four other offsides, except for the Mbappe one, because that was clearly a mistake. So they did not show it. And if they showed it, somebody needs to let me know in the comments. But they did not show it. The second goal, coming off in the midfield, Lamine Yamal is on possession of the ball, and Valverde tries to recover. Well, he ends up recovering the ball, but he steps on Lamine Yamal's foot. Lamine Yamal goes to the ground. It does not get called. Instead, it's a transition play. Vinicius Jr. connects with Mbappe, and hence the second goal from Real Madrid. Lamine Yamal stays down. The bar doesn't even want to take a look. That's 2-0. Barca has to start this game. And if this isn't proof of how La Liga is manipulated, then I don't even know what is. It all starts with the refs. And Barca now has 2 games, very important games, poorly officiated against them. And even Barca they came back to give them credit. They came back 2 goals, amazing goals. One was a Eric Garcia goal, spectacular. The other was just a play from Ferran Torres connection with Rafinha. That's the 2-2. Ferran Torres on a breakaway. He's the last man on full possession of the ball. Tchouaméni just grabs him from behind. And Barca had a chance very similar to that on Kubarsi maybe a month and a half ago. And all the Madridistas, all the Real Madrid fans, everybody on Twitter was saying Negrera League, or saying the Barca manipulating the refs, and that was a clear red card. So, by that same logic, is Tchouaméni on Ferran Torres a red card? He was clearly the last man, and Ferran Torres was going like this because it was clearly a red card. It was clearly a mistake. And the one play that Madrid fans were saying that Barca was getting helped by the refs, Kubarsi wasn't even the last man. He had Íñigo Martinez right next to him. And in this case, there was no other Real Madrid player around, and that's a red card. And not only that, but here's the kicker. Ferran Torres takes a shot inside the box, and the shot is going on goal. Clearly, the ball's going on goal, and Tchouaméni has his arms extended like this, and it hits his arm. Had it not hit his arm, potentially that could have been a goal. I don't know if Courtois could have saved it or not, but at the end of the day, the ball's going in, and the hand cannot participate. You cannot stop the ball trajectory with your hand. That's a clear penalty. Not only that, but Barcelona doesn't get the penalty. Barcelona has to complain and goes all the way down 3 players to the refs. And I guess when that happened, they saw all the outrage by Barca. Bar called the referee and told him to go look at it. Hernandez. So he goes to look at it, and you cannot tell me. You can see Madrid's faces and even Ancelotti's face when the referee went to the bar, because everyone and their mother knew that was a penalty, and the penalty was gonna get called. And he chose not to call the penalty. He said no penalty. That is, ladies and gentlemen, that is a historic robbery. And everyone saw it. This was just as bad and probably worse than the Celta de Vigo Copa del Rey in Real Madrid, when it was clearly a Real Madrid robbed Celta de Vigo in that game. But this game, they clearly wanted Real Madrid to win. They tried to help them, and it is remarkable how Barca won this game. So no penalty given. Real Madrid comes back and makes it 4-3. An amazing goal from Mbappe, who, by the way, dives in the box without getting touched. And who tried to mark him was Frank de Jong, who was clearly knew what Mbappe's intentions were, and he takes the foot out and he dives. And guess what? Automatic penalty in favor of Real Madrid. Automatic. And if it's not for the bar, if it's not for bar who calls, that would have stood and would have been a penalty. Can you imagine that kind of, when in doubt, it's penalty for Real Madrid? But the Tchouaméni, that's not a handball. And if you want to call that a handball, if you want to call that a natural position, let's talk about the Fermin Lopez goal. There's so many things to say that I had to make this video, guys. It's incredible. So there's a 50-50 play between Valverde and Fermin, and somehow it touches Fermin's arm. But the touch in the hand, it's not helping Fermin. It helps Valverde because after Fermin's handball, the ball bounces back to Valverde, and Valverde has full control of the ball. As he's trying to make a play on it, Fermin was able to get it back from him on a great defensive play, and Fermin dribbles through 2 and 3 Madrid players, before he scores a banger of a goal. That's a banger, boy. That's a banger, baby. They celebrate in a crazy way. Everybody goes to the fans and everything. And that is where everything happens. They go look at it in VAR. Why? First of all, why are they looking at it? After all that celebration from Barca, did they want to send a message? Did they want to make a point? Where's the consistency? If Tchouaméni was in natural position, when it clearly helps Real Madrid, the ball trajectory, right? The handball from Fermin Lopez does not help him. It helps Valverde because the ball bounces back to him. And then Fermin recovers the ball, which starts a whole new play at that point. How can you look at that and say that's not a goal? And they give Real Madrid one more chance at the end of the game to go tie the game. And Barca was able to defend, and it was game over at that point. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't choose to see it, the reality and the proofs are there. They were there. Barca got a bad whistle in the Champions League. Everything went Inter Milan's way. Real Madrid got referees with them in this game, and Barca was still able to win 4-3. This game, with good refereeing, would have been 5 or 6 goals in favor for Barcelona. It is what it is. Barcelona has to not only complain, but something has to be done in La Liga, where the structure and all these Madridistas that are involved in all these referee committees. And I didn't even get a chance to talk about the story that came out where Hernandez had a meeting with Madridistas and I guess some members of the committee of the REFF. I don't understand what's going on. I don't know how Barcelona can compete in this stupid freaking La Liga refereeing that it's always in favor of Real Madrid. Tell me in the comments if you're Real Madrid fans. Tell me a controversial game against Real Madrid, even in the Champions League. You might be able to count him with one hand, if that.